St. Louis, home to that big-ass arch and the headquarters of Anheuser-Busch. Today we're visiting Al Smith's Feasting Fox Restaurant and Pub, a historic city landmark that was originally known as Busch's Gretchen Inn. With its steeply pitched roof and corner turret, the Feasting Fox looks like it belongs in one of Grimm's fairy tales. You know, the one about magic beer and how magically delicious it is. And then you learn your lesson and have more at the end of it. No repercussions at all. Across the U.S., some restaurants bring a little something extra to the table in addition to just food. These are some of our favorites. Why would you eat there? In the early 1900s, there was a war brewing between rowdy saloons and total buzzkills. St. Louis-based brewery titan Anheuser-Busch owned plenty of the rowdy saloons that gave these prohibitionists their ammunition. So in 1913, Anheuser-Busch attempted to prove that beer could be served in respectable family establishments, and not just dark, dank hellholes where men go to drink and fight and think about all the mistakes they've made, because there's a lot of them. So Anheuser-Busch opened the Gretchen Inn to serve the predominantly German neighborhood of Dutchtown. German immigrants had been drawn in huge numbers to St. Louis with promises of an American Rhineland, and the Gretchen Inn provided them with the familiar taste of home. That familiar taste being beer.
Beer, 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 beer,
The Gretchen Inn did extremely well for itself, partly because it was situated right next to a park that had flammable balloon races and a literal murder-drome where they would race motorcycles without any brakes on them. It's a wonder any of us even exist.
We laugh at danger. Sitting is for weenies. Over the hills in tomorrow. We'll die as soon as we can.
Ta-da! Hey!
Triple stacked.
Ha! Ha ha! Yes!
Woo! Airplane me. Ha ha!
Look, I'm planking!
The balloons were filled with natural gas, cooking gas.
Seems like a bad idea.
Yes, they would drift off, and by the books, the record was around 1,300 miles they could drift. And usually up across the Great Lakes, if they could get across the Great Lakes and land them in Canada.
Would someone just follow along with the balloon, or they just wait till they come back?
Well, they wouldn't come back for months. Because
both of these garnered huge crowds that needed beer and food to fuel their bloodlust.
the bars, at least in this area, all had bucket beer.
How big a bucket are we talking?
Well, they were bigger than what they would have at a picnic now, because people would kind of want the biggest bucket they could get. So that meant your father walked up to the bar, had a couple drinks, and then came home with a bucket. Or if they didn't want to walk up, I remember as a kid, you'd give me the bucket and say, go get a bucket of beer. So you would go up to the bar, and of course they knew you, and they'd fill this bucket up, and then the guy would always say the same thing. He would say, now whistle all the way home. If you quit whistling, you're in your dad's beer, and I'm going to come and get you. So you'd walk out with it.
Because it was a restaurant and not simply a dank hole for men to drink and fight in, the Gretchen Inn survived Prohibition. Barely. But with the repeal of the 18th Amendment in 1933, new antitrust laws made it illegal for breweries to own drinking establishments. So the restaurant was leased to Al Smith. The restaurant carried on in one way or another until 1986, at which point the restaurant decided to switch careers from being a restaurant to being an ugly, no-good, run-down derelict for a while. In 1993, Anheuser-Busch was on the verge of selling the location to a fast food franchise when Susan and Martin Lupker took up the challenge of saving the restaurant. They worked on restoring the building to its original condition and furnished the interior with items salvaged from other historic neighborhood restaurants. 2 years later, they reopened as the Feasting Fox, and in 2001, the building was designated a city landmark and is easily the home of some of the best German food we've ever had. You know, outside of actual Germany. Hey guys! If you want to see the second half of this episode, follow the link over to Zagat. We try all the food. Spoiler alert, some of it is strudel, some of it is wieners. Go check that out. In the meantime, subscribe to Tasted, subscribe to Zagat, follow me on Twitter, and we'll see you next week.